welcome back to Brassionomics. Costumes are fun, and, Matt Royal joins us. Now, I know that when we talked about...
I'm not in costume.
I know.
I'm just saying.
But we talked at the top of the hour about costumes and people and kids wanting to be different things for Halloween, and oftentimes, different costumes have a lot of different parts. Now, I just want to ask you, because we're a week out from Halloween here, Matt, and again, Matthew Royal joins us from Royal Commercial Corp. You're about 7 feet tall.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Where do you get a costume?
I
like
don't.
A king-size sheet and
I don't.
go out as a ghost?
I just wear my black suit and go as Lurch. That's it. But I'm not 7 feet tall. I just want to make that clear.
6'10"?
6'7" 3/4" if you really count.
Okay, got it. Well, that must give you a pretty good a view on what's going on. Just kidding, Matt. So, Matt, when people are looking at costumes or they're looking at things, there's a lot of different, like maybe accessories, right? And if you're going to be Superman, you might need a cape. If you're going to be, I don't know, if you're going to be Thomas the Train like my kid, you need a big smiley choo-choo train in the front of you. But, you're not in the costume business. You're really in commercial real estate.
Yeah, I was wondering where you're going with this.
Well,
by the way.
We're 1 week to Halloween, man. I'm excited, obviously. But, when you start looking at commercial real estate, there's a lot of different factors that go into it. I mean, to make the perfect real estate contract, just as there's a lot of factors that maybe go into the perfect Halloween costume.
Absolutely. And you want equal results at the end of the day. You want a bag full of candy.
Yep.
And then in other ways, you just want your costume to look good.
Yes.
So
what goes into a real estate contract that really, what are some of the important details? Because we've hit on this where you have all the different pieces and how they each meet, they're each so important.
Yeah.
But there's one piece that sometimes kind of gets left out of the equation of what's so important. And because, well, it's how you get paid, or how a commercial real estate broker gets paid.
Correct.
And how does that exactly work? I mean, it seems to be kind of a hidden field.
That is a very good question and a good topic. When people do a residential transaction, it's spelled out. Everyone knows, and it's open and disclosed, and it's transparent. Sometimes in commercial transactions, it is not so transparent. And there's different landlords inherently do it differently, but the setup of the process is the same for residential versus commercial. When you see a sign out there and someone's listing their property, the commissions have already been pre-negotiated. And so we've talked about it earlier on some shows where tenants go out and say, well, I'm going to go represent myself, and that way I'll save the commission. Well, no, the commissions are being paid regardless as if the tenant gets represented or not. Typically, there's 2 or 3 different types of commission structures, and those go by industry, whether it's industrial, office, or retail, and they have different valuations. Typically, those are paid on a per square foot basis or on a gross lease value basis. And you say, well, what's the difference? Well, when they negotiate up front, when they list the property, they'll say we're listing 10,000 square feet and we're going to pay a brokerage commission equal to 5% of the gross lease value. So if you're the tenant and you add up all your leasing costs, at the bottom of it, it'll take 5% of that, and that's what the procuring broker would achieve, meaning the broker representing the tenant. However, and like I say, commissions aren't regulated, but according to real estate laws, real estate practices, there can be no collusion, so they're not set. But there's some general industry standards that people follow. So typically, and this isn't set in stone anywhere because it's all negotiable, but listing brokers get 2 to 3% of the gross lease value, and the person bringing the tenant in gets anywhere from 3 to 5% of the gross lease value. And so what happens is some of the time, the 2 brokers offline, away from their clients, the landlord and the tenant, argue or debate back and forth who gets what portion. So that's a separate negotiation taken away. But so
the pie
The pie,
the
yes.
pie of the commission in most commercial transactions has already been kind of put over aside.
Yes.
And now, but the pie has not necessarily been split up like it maybe is in a residential transaction. It's not pre-split.
Correctly. It's stated that it's pre-split, but that too is open to negotiation. And so,
How do those conversations go when you're talking to another broker, and how does that conversation go?
typically not well.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wants someone else reaching into their pocket when it's kind of been established, but it happens. And again, when you're on 100% commission, having somebody reach into your pocket generally it can be contentious. But is it a deal killer? Never. It's never a deal killer. But if you are the tenant and you're the commission's already factored into the rent. It's already factored in there. Same with the purchase price or purchase sale price. So do not be shy. Ask your broker, how much are you going to make from this? And the automatic answer to that will be, oh, you don't have to worry about that. You don't pay for it. Yeah, you do, but it's factored into the rent. No one should be embarrassed about the commissions or the money they make. That's how they feed their family. That's how you make your living. So if you turn to your broker and say, and what commission are you getting out of this? Just ask them point blank. They should share that with you. Sometimes you'll say, wow, I just leased 1,000 square feet and you made $5,000 or $7,000 and it took us 2 weeks? Yeah. One of our previous guests, said, hey, managing $1 billion portfolio takes just as much time as managing $1 million portfolio. It's the same thing in commercial real estate where 1,000 square foot takes the same amount of time to do a 10,000 square foot. The difference is the dollar volume. The time's probably pretty much similar if you're doing a good job. So.
And you talked about that guy taking 1 week for the 1,000 square feet or $5,000 or $7,000 commission. That's probably the atypical piece of the pie, right? I mean,
that is
normally
atypical.
you're going out and you've gone all over the city. You've looked at all sorts of different buildings, and maybe you've written up a lease or two that didn't go through.
Absolutely. So those that get to fruition or get to close, depending, especially in a tough market, might be 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
And another 2,000 square foot space or 1,000 square foot space may have taken you 6 months to get through because there was funding issues or there are other lease issues or tenant issue, whatever. So, and that's what tenants need to understand. But like I say, the bottom line is feel free to ask what your agent, how he's being remunerated for that. We
are here with Matthew Royal of Royal Commercial Corp. Matt, so, okay. So the price tag, we were talking a little bit about Halloween costumes before.
Yes.
And, when you go into a retail place, the price tag is usually pretty clearly set on whatever you're buying. But again, maybe you don't know what you don't know what that retail place bought it for. You just know what they're selling it for. It seems that this is maybe a little bit more common throughout all industries. Maybe somebody they don't know, a client may not know exactly what you're going to make. They can ask. Everything is marked up. I mean, you go to a retail store, you typically aren't going to ask the owner of the store, how much are you making on this Batman costume?
Correct. But you don't have a trust relationship with that store owner. You should have a trust relationship with your broker. You have one with your doctor. You don't ask him before you do the procedure how much. Well, you may if your insurance is sketchy, but he's going to send you a bill, so you're going to know exactly what that cost was. And when you're doing any type of financial or business transaction, it's okay if it's your money being paid to ask where does the money go. I mean, you'd ask how much are the operating expenses of the triple nets? How much is the base rent? How much is your commission? How much are they spending in tenant improvement allowance for us? How much do I have to bring to the table? So when you're putting your business spreadsheet together to evaluate the property and find out if this is a good deal for your business now and in the 5, 7, 10-year long term, ask the question. I mean, it's important because then you can say, my broker or agent was paid $30,000 to do this. What do I expect him to do for me for the $30,000? And when you do that, and we talked previously about setting expectations up front. This is what I expect the broker. I expect him to, review every document, give me his advice, add value, courier the documents, show properties, blah, blah, goes on and on and on. Get value for your commission that you didn't pay out of your pocket, but you're paying over the long term.
Well, Matthew, certainly it is interesting to know that, of course, a broker is going to make a commission. I think it's pretty well known that most real estate people in the real estate industry are on commission.
Yes.
It's a whole other piece to learn, though, that sometimes that commission is a negotiation piece within the brokers and not necessarily preset, because it's most people think there's kind of a fixed price for doing that. But
yes, there's kind of a subtle way. No broker agent wants to go to their representative, their client, whether it be the landlord or the tenant, and say, I want to be paid more. Now, because then that person's going to ask, well, what will you do for more? How are you going to validate additional costs? Nobody wants to do that.
Much easier to try to take it from the guy on the other side of the table.
Much easier. So it's a little bit of a strong arm deal, but after you do it a few times with a few different brokers, they all kind of figure out where your position is, and it always gets worked out, because brokers are not to stand in the way of a deal. And if they're going to stand in the way of a deal or shut a deal down because they're not getting paid enough,
probably not going to be in business very long.
No, they're not a good. That's not a good agent.
Thank you again for joining us again, Matthew Royal with Royal Commercial Corporation. When we come back, there's a lot of different pieces of a house that you also may need to know about, just as you may need to know about a lot of pieces of real estate transaction or your Halloween costume. When we come back, Scott Appert is going to join us, and we're going to talk about some of the things that you may not know about that may not be the healthiest thing in your home. We'll be back after this break.